All right, we're live. Uh, I see there's a little bit of an error on your side, but I think we should be good. Let's try it now. Your Twitter looks like it's not working for some reason. That's okay. Anyways, what's up, everyone? My name is Sunny Ray. This is the Sunny Ray Show. Today I'm with Ben McDougall. Ben, how you doing, bud?
Good. Great to be here, Sonny.
Likewise, happy to have you here. So Ben, the first question, what's benmcdougall.com? What are you building there? Maybe just share a little bit about that. And then, yeah, happy to kind of double click on Ben.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, boy, that's a loaded question. I think there's value in having your name.com as this home base that can transcend various quests, but will always remain, home. So whether that's your writings or a museum of filmmaking or photography or whatever it might be. And so benmcdougall.com is loaded with, I think, experiential wisdom through writing, through video, through photography, and through podcasting as well. So it's a variety of creative activities. You can spend some time with me over there, and it's also an easy way to connect directly. So take a peek over there, and appreciate you asking, man. That's kind of my favorite site.
Yeah, tell me about it. Hey, I bought sunnyray.com, my name, a couple of years ago. And what do you think? Like, how important do you think it is to own your name? In this like AI era that we're approaching, I can't help but feel that don't you want AI to know about you, and don't you want to craft that narrative? So I don't know.
While I don't think that the word personal brand is a great term, it's just overused. It's abstract, like innovation, but it is important to have that type of identity, that ownership online. I mean, when we jump to Web3, it's like read, write, and own, right? And so I think the question becomes, does .com live long term? When we think about the extensions, even as like ETH came online, and now you're, benmcdougall.eth. And so whether the .com lives forever, I think is the longer question. But having your own identity, having a home base, and having some of the key identifiers, in this case, a domain name that you control, that you own, that you have a sense of ownership around, to me is an important thing. In fact, it's a fun gift for little ones. So maybe it's, little ones, first name, last name.com that you gift them at high school. And maybe it comes with this inbox that you've written to them even before they might have arrived. And so being thoughtful with that can actually jumpstart that next generation's professional experience.
I never even thought of that one, man. That's I like that already. Leading with value. Ben, take me back, man. What's so you were born in Ohio, but grew up in Iowa, is that correct?
That's true. Yeah.
So
Here in the Midwest.
What was your childhood like for you, and what did you want to be when you grew up?
That's a fun question. I don't remember how I would have answered, what do I want to be when I grow up? In fact, that's a whole segue. I think that's a very rigid, singular path that we put kids on, when in fact, it might be more of a diversified career portfolio and multiple paths, and thinking that you're going to be something might actually be self-limiting. So sorry, I'll jump back from that quick pit stop and answer the actual question. I grew up, I think, in a very traditional way. One thing that I look back on and appreciate is a strong sense of family. I had two siblings. My parents grew up religious, which is kind of a fun thing I don't talk about in these environments as often. But that really introduced me to, I would, as I reflect on it, like community building. Growing up Baptist has all sorts of things that are connected to it. And while some of the forced nature, some of the very, you have to do everything this way around religion, shifted my interest. And so I would say that I'm more spiritual than religious, but having collided with so many different remarkable people, I just like the open-mindedness, believe whatever you want, but it's really, I think, important to stay open-minded and find common ground versus like this yes or no, you have to do it my way or else we can't even talk. To me, that's so polarizing that you miss out on a lot of the fun in life. And if we only live once, oh, don't waste it doing something you don't enjoy. And so I find myself called to really and try to embrace the moment, as we all do. But growing up in that type of environment, I think taught me that this is a path that's, of course, approachable, but there is some open-mindedness that allows us to see things differently.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is where the road to religion ends, the road to spirituality begins. And then
Mm.
where the road to spirituality ends, the road to reality begins, right?
Mm.
I'm a big fan of, reality and anything that kind of gets me there. I'm here for it. So you played soccer your whole life, and your first, real venture was the Iowa 3 versus 3 soccer challenge. So how did sports shape the way you build today?
Look at you going in the deep cuts. This is fun. I wasn't taught entrepreneurship, but I had played soccer. I went through college, got a computer science degree, and um, as I landed in web development early on, I realized the power of the internet. This was back when Google was new. And so I had this idea of polishing the tournament experience that I had enjoyed personally, but executing it as an entrepreneur. And so would end up firing up this full scale thing and finding a bunch of sponsors and using, back in the day, SEO was like this, dark magic. Being able to spread the word around the internet allowed that event to be quite successful, and ended up selling that company, my first exit, if you will, to a local soccer club as we launched a more scalable startup within the video game realm. And so it continued to build on this event management capability, controlling chaos and connecting all the dots, but it leveraged the internet more. And it was back when MySpace was cool. So we launched a video game social network that brought gamers and everyone like that together and spun the event management back into what became esports. And so I've played Guitar Hero in Times Square and with BlackBerry at Disney World, went to E3. So there's an interesting quick pit stop here. Like the side doors of community building and entrepreneurship, I think allow a lot more people to get into the arenas that they want to play in versus in my thought, I had to go get a computer science degree in order to go design or build video games at one of the, AAA game developers. And so it was a good kind of learned experience. And now we see how education really embraces entrepreneurship, and more students are interacting with an entrepreneurial lifestyle so much earlier. Even if it's not for them right away, they're able to understand what it might take to turn such knobs.
So, what drew you? What pulled you into towards computers? You mentioned that you got your computer. You said you studied computer science and graduated in 2000, 2004 or something. What pulled you
Yeah,
towards computers?
I think video games.
Right?
Um,
Okay.
and I think that even today, like while the landscape of our economy is changing, most young, high school or junior high boys would want to be like a video game designer, a professional athlete, or now an influencer, right? Like, and so at the time there was only two of those options, and video games really, I think I enjoyed that, and so along with sports, the idea of technology was not like a part of our home, but I found a lot of interest in that. And I would also say that getting a free laptop back when laptops were harder to get during my collegiate experience drove me even more toward that technologist type of thing.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And then I guess after college, you flew to California, right, to interview as a video game tester, but then you quickly realized that wasn't viable. So, what did that trip teach you?
Yeah, if anyone's seen the movie Grandma's Boy, that could have been me. I, like I said, entrepreneurship was not part of the equation. We were going to get an expensive piece of paper in order to build someone else's dream. And so I assumed that I needed a computer science degree in order to go into a technology field like video game development. And so I was trying this very traditional path, and it would have just started at the bottom rung, 5 different jobs trying to survive in an expensive environment like Southern California. I would end up going and not choosing that path, and instead building into the internet. And I'm so thankful. I would have enjoyed that, I think, but I was able to find that realm in such a different way. And along the way, like being able to interact with so many business owners who were oftentimes building their first website, and looking back in reflection, boy, I learned a lot about business by working with different owners in every industry you can imagine who were trying to tell their stories online. And so my own, experience as a founder, fast forward, working a lot more with founders specifically through the art of entrepreneurship. But in those early days, even not knowing it, through a maybe traditional sales or business development role, I was articulating like what someone was trying to share in their story and translating nerd to normal, but also then normal back to nerd so that the developers could execute. I'm very thankful for the 8 years I spent in that type of a role.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so it was like a web development firm, right, in Iowa, and you racked up over $1 million in commission sales. So, I mean, what did that grind teach you about people and storytelling?
Yeah, the less you say, the better you're doing when it comes to sales. It also requires a long-term effort, a sacrifice to build relationships. I've learned that building your network before you need it. I really wish I would have taken my own advice back in the day. Being able to show up and continuously deliver value, but also learn what other people are doing, and not always assuming that the first degree of an interaction is where the magic happens. When it's connection versus transactional networking, you're able to have the second degree of that person's network, even the third degree, or over time, find ways to collaborate. And so this was an era where websites were, $3,000 to $5,000, and you wanted to change content. It was a little bit more, but a much different time on the internet. This was the read Web 1, if you will, where it took development capacity in order to build a website. Web 2, we know you can manage your own website. You've got social media. You're able to write into the internet. And that's kind of, I departed that role. Might be a good segue, because this is a fun pit stop as well. Thinking about people that you enjoyed working with, an industry that you find compelling, and building your own role. Building your own role allows you to be innovative with whoever you're working with, and it unites you at an even playing field versus maybe the employer-employee. And you're then able to really go deep into that specific direction. And so my example is retiring out of web development in order to go in-house at a home builder. And I don't even like the word hammer. Like, I'm not handy, but going in there with multimedia marketing capacity, being able to, of course, execute on the web development front, and being like set free to explore filmmaking and photography and all of the creative activities that go into showcasing these nice new homes. I would end up spending another 8 years there. And the flexibility of that role, which I would say was earned, but could then like help turn knobs from just being a part of the startup community and then getting more involved in leading the startup community. So getting volunteer like roles within 1 Million Cups. That's where my activity really churned up in that type of thing, or other startup flavored leadership activities. The freedom of that, paired with the like extra gears required for a diversified career portfolio, allowed me to execute my traditional role while slowly dancing with these emerging side hustles.
Interesting. So maybe let's switch gears a little bit. When did you first feel the pull of AI beyond just, being a curious technologist?
Hmm. That fast forwards a lot, because I'm not one of like the day one OGs. I had to be
Mm.
reminded that AI is not new. I do remember it. Well, this will be the answer. The pass or fail class in college, my senior year, was AI, and boy, the matrix math of those that was the hardest class. I'm so thankful that it was pass or fail because I was friendly and I was able to get the pass. But boy, the math that went into it in those early days was seriously complicated and challenging. I would say more like relevant answer though is when we had written a lot of content. An architect and I thought about building BenBot. And so this was right as OpenAI came online. It was before ChatGPT was like mainstream, but we were able to use that API to create influence layers and trained it on all of this remarkable content that I was really proud of and created an interaction for folks that had NFT ownership. And so we use that as the payment gateway in a nice nerdy way in order to then interact with BenBot on Discord. And so it would answer anything like a chat bot would. But when you talk to it about things I had written about throughout the entrepreneurial lifestyle, like this Benergy would come through the replies and a source link every once in a while to guide people back into where it came from. And so I would say that's the first example of more executing stuff. Now I'm thinking about like A to A. So agent to agent environments. And how do we sell to machines when there's no emotion involved with a transaction? And I do wonder if the luxury of the human touch creates a separate category that machines will be more thirsty for because it hasn't already been indexed online.
What did you mean by that? Like that last sentence? Can you
So
double click on that one?
there are emerging marketplaces where agents are upskilling by microtransaction. I'm going to grab this skill, and they're learning through those microtransactions, and so presenting skills to agents that are buying them without interacting with humans is a very like sterile transaction, right? We just talked about the art of sales and building relationships and almost catering to the emotions of human. That disappears. And so I like that challenge, that exercise. And as an example, if you are a writer or if you have content that's very personal or experiential wisdom based, that might be something more interesting than yet another blog that references the blog it was copied from and parroted, right? And so it's like it's adding some freshness because it's not fully indexed online.
Interesting. So Roasted Reflections was 3 years of weekly writing, right? At what point did you realize it could become training data?
As that framework, which was built originally from the first book, You Don't Need This Book, is all about entrepreneurship and has 10 really like classic chapters on the art of building a company, with community being chapter 2. So a very network driven, community focused type of entrepreneurial experience. This next book expands on that and takes it into leadership, technology, and life and happiness. And so the act of writing every week was something I'm very thankful for. I think writing helps us understand ourselves. It helps us think. And so it was by no means a like copy and paste, but I had, like, to use the word again, indexed a lot of my own thoughts. And the art was really printing all those out and recognizing how they could fit into something that would be enjoyable to read. And so none of the new book has the first book's content, but instead it has all that fresh content organized in something that really flows. And then gaps had to be filled in order to create a readability factor that would be enjoyable to jump into one of these 1 to 3 page riffs, or to start and go all the way through to the finish. One of the neat things in that exercise of writing every week, boy, the sacrifice of consistency comes to mind, but it also is like part of your creative practice. It was just what we do, right? Like this podcast, Sonny Ray gets on the mic, jams efficiently, but also creates a recorded relic with someone he likes. And oh, by the way, brings along an audience that can generate value today or tomorrow. And so leaning into some of the perspectives of others, and as we continue to be generous and accelerate that engaged network builds both like width but also depth. And so I have 20 contributing authors in the new book, And it's not just like someone that I kind of know. Like this is a text message. Yo, we've got this book coming online. They already, some of them had contributed into that online blog. And so it's a very natural progression in order to not lose what is very valuable insight, maybe in the numbness of an online blog. So I am thankful for Roasted Reflections, as it was the catalyst to creating what we have within Brewed from Within.
So Flightbright was a hardware bet that, didn't raise capital and force you to pivot right to a mobile app. Well, what did that failure teach you that's now kind of baked into how you ship AI?
Yeah. I don't know if it was a failure as much as a shift. I think we either succeed or learn. We learned that hardware is hard and software is magic. That's not an epiphany. Most people will understand that. The other thing is about like the difference between maybe a simple product that has no electronics and the huge jump of building something that has some brains in tune. This was also a different time, right? And so people would be using the touch screen and kind of wanting to scroll on it or use it like their phone. But no, this was like the old school punch it on the screen, had to simplify the design so that it didn't look 8-bit. But it was a remarkability factor. We built an electronic serving system that would allow people in the restaurants or breweries or wherever to see which one was which, save a few favorites, and the data could then be leveraged by the establishment. And boy, you show up with a beer flight and have this electronic screen. The remarkability factor was just off the charts. But to continue finishing that answer, it's the classic manufacturing challenge. The cost paired with the quantity really put us up against a difficult situation that we went to the tip of the mountain. We were at the large brewers conference. Everyone liked it, but the cost was prohibitive. And so we had to like reflect. I made everyone read The Dip by Seth Godin, which is like when and what to quit. And we had built so much strong software to support the hardware that we spun off the app to do something similar from the power of a phone. You lose a lot of the remarkability, like our patent is not quite leveraged, but we were asked to spin that out for a beer festival app. And so it's a classic, like almost gonna fail. And then, you find a little bit of product market fit right as the pandemic comes online. So we go back into hibernation for like beer festivals going taboo, but it really works specifically well. And so I would add that to the list of learnings, continuing to really focus in on being the best, even though there are a lot of ways that you can pursue such an achievement, has allowed the app to really save a bunch of time and money for, in this case, beer festival owners and organizers. So Flightbright has had a lot of tasty customer discovery. And lastly, working with people that you love, people that you really respect. I've got 2 co-founders that are more my friends than they are co-founders. It gives us something to jam on, even though it doesn't have to work. And so complacency is a serious thing we fight against. But at the same time, it's a quest that remains intriguing, fun, and make some money along the way. So Flightbright is a cool thing for sure.
So you retired from running 1 million cups in 2026, right after 13 years. So what does the next chapter look like for you?
Man, that is a whole nother episode, dude. I volunteered for 5 years when that program is led by volunteer organizers around the United States. For our international viewers, Startup Huddle is the synonym, right? So this weekly gathering within a startup community provides so much serendipitous glue. It's like the front porch into entrepreneurial ecosystems. And so getting involved as a founder, this was my tribe. This is what I enjoyed doing on a Wednesday, naturally led to me leveraging some of my superpowers and being able to lead in that way. And that generosity built trust. And so as the movement grew, I was able to help the Kauffman Foundation design and build this new role, which we mentioned earlier. And I would be in that role for 8 years, supporting, connecting fellow volunteer organizers all around the country. And so the amount of wild collisions, the exposure that I've had both in the entrepreneurial lifestyle, but also students and others who are accelerating those types of founders, I'm so thankful for. It was never a gift. It took everything, but I am very thankful and blessed to have the opportunity of colliding with so many people that I care about. And those stories, like I've built 5 companies, I've done some things. And so that wisdom is brewed into my, content, my writing, my creative way of being. But it's learning every Wednesday over coffee how someone else was building what they cared about, asking a thoughtful question, making a connection that helped them get through a barrier. That type of long-term game is why the wisdom, I think, is valuable and timeless. It's not just someone's perspective. It's the art of synthesizing so many different stories in such complexity that hopefully will resonate no matter what type of quest you're currently exploring. You
So,
asked what's next. I don't know what's next. I am called to let this new book hit shelves and see what occurs from that. I think that will guide me to potentially continuing to build community, continue to using that art of connection. But I really like digitized consciousness. I really like some of the high tech stuff that's happening. And I wonder if it, a shift into maybe back into the industry could be an energizing twist. So I'm not fully sure.
it's okay to not know. I'm sure whatever it is can be exciting. So, I think prior to the call here and in some of your older writing, you've called yourself a polymath, right? With a diverse.
No, I
No,
never
you
called
you don't you
myself a
don't call
polymath.
yourself. Okay, the internet calls
I
you a
was once
polymath.
called a polymath, and I
Okay.
didn't know what it meant. I looked it up, and I was like, "What? This is like a synonym to Renaissance, man. I love it. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's a compliment."
So let me ask you something. So, polymath with I guess, a diversified career portfolio, right? So why is that a better bet than going deep in on one thing?
Hmm. I don't know if it's a better bet. It kind of depends on your environment, as a lot of these types of narratives do. Um, but going back to that question of what do you want to be when you grow up, young child, we are so efficient. And as like the labor economy literally like shifts in real time, the value of like creativity, initiative, the willingness to be adaptive, having the real skills, that's this encyclopedia of things that are often important, and then like the vocational knowledge as a prerequisite. These are what we call play force principles. That collection of capabilities will make you dangerous, whether it's one activity that you're really focused on, or adding a few other things that create opportunities to find different types of capital. And so I think celebrating the side hustle, recognizing that it's going to take a little longer because it doesn't have your primary focus, but over time you might be able to capture more things that allow you to make money while you sleep without diluting yourself to mediocrity. So staying very conscious of your personal bandwidth, and knowing that the size of each one of those little pie chart pieces will change, allows a diversified career portfolio to be more sustainable. You're not locked in and hoping that the promise of an existing organization will remain true forever. You might have that side hustle. You might have that community building thing. You might have a couple of activities that also generate innovative energy into the other areas of your life. And so I think as a larger company celebrates folks who twist the knobs at a hackathon or to explore their side hustle, not as a like distraction or a lack of time being committed into their more traditional role, but instead like adding layers of understanding, adding wild collisions that brew more energy into whatever their role might be at the existing company. I'll finish with where this shifts. the diversified career portfolio needs to be more focused if you take other people's money, right? If you bring in external capital, you're going to have some promises that need to be kept. And if you have employees, those employees now trust you to execute and stay focused. But if those two factors are not in the equation, I do think that it's okay to explore a couple more things, and you'll find that they energize the other existing areas of your work.
Super interesting. So you said that you believe that the art of connection is your real superpower. How do you see AI changing what connections, mean over the next 5 years?
Yeah. What do you think, Sonny? I've been very talkative.
How do I think AI changes the connection? I mean, I don't know. For me, I think it'll definitely enhance it. I'm been married for what 14 years almost now, so I don't tinker
Hey,
with
cheers to our co-founders in life.
right. So I don't use Tinder or Bumble, but I was listening to the CEO of Bumble talk the other day, and she was saying how she can envision a world where, let's say, my wife and I haven't met one another yet. Her AI and my AI could potentially interact, and
How cute.
maybe if there's, like, I don't know, things that we value together and whatnot, that maybe it creates the connection or something. So I could see maybe extrapolating that to now outside of just marital relationships, where AI can almost double and quantify whether or qualify whether people I should be connecting with them or not. That's something that comes to mind. So I can see it enhancing
That's
it.
cool. You
There's a
like
there's
have
a
this built-in fact sheet.
Yeah. The other thing, my wife was asking me if I could build us like a just for fun, not that we need it, but like a WhatsApp marriage counselor. Like, but it would like constantly roast me, of course, because because I'm the one building it. It would be awful if
Nice. Well,
I
it
use
makes
the
me think of
opportunity to tear my wife down. But I was thinking of building something. I don't know. I could think of maybe 100 different ways where AI could be delightfully integrated into like the fabric of our relationships to enhance it. But yeah, I don't know. Those are two ideas
that's
that come to mind.
That's a cool response, man. Yeah, and I mean, Naval talks a lot about how vibe coding is unlocking our capabilities of just building our own apps with English. And I think the reality of being able to have what you just described after a couple of prompts is getting closer and closer. It might be right now. And so your wife has one, you have one, together they become a something something, and it's very personalized. It's not like an existing platform. It's like your own build. The thing as a technologist, I love that. Right. I think that's so interesting. And it leads us to like this neon future where all of our dreams are realized and technology is almost invisible. I think that's the best type of technology, when it doesn't really feel like you're doing anything. And so, eventually we'll have a lot, I think, more biotech, less like meat hooks to slow us down with data inputting. We're already seeing a lot of this type of stuff. Um, and so while all of that is remarkable and it adds so much ease to connection, I think that adds a luxurious factor to premium human time. And so while I think a lot of software only plays can be easy to replicate, the best will always kind of remain the best, and that's what people are going to want. Fortunately, there's room to be the best in more ways, but it also is very like it's able to be replicated so easily. However, it's hard to replicate your network. It's difficult to interact with someone IRL and allow serendipity to go beyond that fact sheet. In fact, I would be concerned about a fact sheet becoming so important that, oh, you don't like this, and so therefore I'm not even going to waste my time. That might be the one thing that you disagree on, and it was only because of the time and space that you were in that moment you decided it. And so I hope that, and I believe it's important that we remain porous, we remain wild, we continue to be generous with our time so that we can invite overtime interactions. It doesn't always have to be about productivity and efficiency, and this is our agenda, so this is what we talk about. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I think you see some of the cultural like divisions, some of the fragmentation, is that it's so efficient that there's no room for serendipity. And so being a little less efficient, inviting that meeting for no reason or going a little longer, and not having so many agenda driven interactions, I think will allow us to find more common ground versus being yes or no. And that's a beautiful thing. That's connection that has depth, but also interacts with other areas of your life versus the only first degree that may originally connect people. This is the connected era, but there's a lot of loneliness in it. And so showing up and continuing to do some of the things that make us human, I think will help us leverage the value of technology without assuming it will do everything for us.
Cool. Well, Ben, you've been so gracious with your time. I'd love to do this as a part two with you someday down the road. But maybe just help me land the plane. Tell people where people can learn more about you, where they can learn about your stream of thought.
Thanks, Sonny. You are an artist in the work of inverse charisma, asking thoughtful questions, preparing for a conversation, active listening. Really has allowed me to share some neat thoughts, and I too have enjoyed our time together. I also like hearing from others. I'd love to hear what you're building. I'd love to hear what barriers you're up against or what type of connection would help you accelerate toward whatever it might be. And so you mentioned benmcdougall.com as the opening. That's going to be everything. But I'd also invite you to take a peek. Brewed from Within. This is the new book. It's a really neat narrative on the entrepreneurial lifestyle with life and happiness, technology. You've got leadership and entrepreneurship all wrapped into 125 riffs with 20 contributing authors. And so it's a really nice piece. I promise you'll enjoy the energy that this will provide you. But Sonny and I are here for you. So continue to build, and may the best of your todays be the worst of your tomorrows. Cheers.
Love it. Love it. Cool. I'm going to bring this stream to an end. Wow, we have 20 some people listening. Thank you. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And for the rest of you in the future who are checking this out. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.